I am goddamn tired about all the complaints that I've been seeing involving the Electoral College and how it pertains to the U.S. elections. Now, I can understand that those of you not in the U.S., those of you from Europe or other countries, may not understand why the Electoral College exists. I personally like to think I'm a bit of a student of history, but frankly, the intricacies of other countries' election systems, not really something I want to research right now, and this is a bit of a rant, because I'm getting pretty pissed off about all that talk about not needing the Electoral College. It's pissing me off. Pissing me off big time. Other Americans should understand this, but I have watched way too many videos where something like, "Oh, the Electoral College is a thing of the past. Let's get rid of it and just go to straight democratic voting for the president." But what they don't realize is the Electoral College is an important part of the republic that is the United States. The United States is a republic. It's not a democracy. And despite having probably one of the younger countries around, our government and election system is older than all but a handful of countries out there. And the reason it's lasted for so long is because it's designed to balance, just like everything in the United States government system. It's a balancing act. And that's why we need it. The Electoral College is good because it balances. Now I'm going to go ahead and get you an example of this to show you how it balances. And I don't need something from back in the day with the Founding Fathers, or, this is how they did stuff in the first election, so we always do it this way. I can use an example from this election cycle from just a few days ago. And that example is New Hampshire.
New Hampshire.
New Hampshire.
New Hampshire.
New Hampshire. For those of you that are not from the U.S., and unfortunately, for way too many of my fellow United States citizens of voting age, New Hampshire is a small state that is found on the northeast coast of the United States. In the last few days, actually weeks, a lot of political wonks have been talking about what states Trump needs to win, or what states Hillary can't lose in this election. And one that comes up on a regular basis is New Hampshire.
New Hampshire.
New Hampshire.
New Hampshire.
New Hampshire. Another one that's small that comes up a lot is Maine. A lot of the other ones they talk about are bigger, but they talk about New Hampshire and Maine. And I'm going to focus on New Hampshire, because I've got the information on that. Also, two YouTubers I really like, Vernaculus and Wizard of Cause, are from that area. Maybe I can get some people who view this video to go and check out their channels. That would be awesome if I could get people to view their channels, or people view my channel because of it. But one thing they can tell you, being from that area, is that New Hampshire doesn't really have a large population. As of the last census, there is about 1 million voting age adults in New Hampshire. That's it. Just 1 million. Now, that same census also tells us that there are 245, roughly, million voting age adults in the whole U.S. Now, most of those won't vote. And in fact, back in 2012, during the last presidential election, only about 110 million people voted. So, less than half. Now, from that 1 million possible voters in New Hampshire, about 600,000 voted. But do the math. That's just over 0.5% of the total vote. Just over 0.5% came from New Hampshire. Even if every person that can vote in New Hampshire voted, it would still be less than 1% of the vote. And that is why the Electoral College exists. Not because in the days of yore, it took a long time to get to places, so we needed representatives to vote for us. I've heard that explanation before. It is stupid. I mean, it doesn't make any sense. If that's the case, just have your senators or representatives vote for you. They're already there. You've already voted for them. But that invests too much power in the Senate and the House. And the whole point of the Electoral College is it gives those small states like New Hampshire,
New Hampshire,
power. It gives presidential candidates a reason to go to those states. It gives those small states a balance to the massive populations in other states. Now, a lot of you listeners from outside the United States don't realize how one-sided it is. I bet even a lot of you listeners from the United States don't realize how big a difference is in population some of these states have. 55% of the total U.S. population are located within 10 states. 55% are located within 10 states. More people are located in those 10 states than voted in the last election. Not for one candidate, period. Voted, period. And there are 9 states that have a smaller population than New Hampshire. New Hampshire isn't even a small state. There are 9 states with a smaller population. I mean, heck, just to give you how crazy the difference is. The 20 least populated states of the United States combined only have about 10.5% of the U.S. population. The 20 least populous states have 10.5%. Have about 10.5% of the total U.S. population as of the last census. And basically, if we switched from having an electoral college with electoral votes to straight democracy, those 20 states, presidential candidates would tell those 20 states to suck it. I mean, even ones that actually wanted to be populist and help support those states would have to focus on other states. Would have to. They just don't have the population to have any power in a completely democratic presidential election. I mean, you would focus on the top 10 big time, and maybe the next 10 after that. Well, only if it was really close would the other ones even matter. This part's more for those of you outside the United States, because I'm going to assume everybody in the U.S. is kind of aware of this. America isn't just one big country. We are actually a lot more like the EU than you are aware. We just have a federal government that is, frankly, far more democratically elected than the one that runs the EU. And unlike the EU, Europe, we have kind of a base culture and language and pretty much a shared history. But outside of those things, each state is pretty different. In fact, each one is kind of its own little country within the U.S. You might not realize this, but each state in the U.S. has its own laws separate from the federal laws, has its own courts, its own prisons, its own armies. That's the National Guard. For anybody who wants to disagree with that, they have their own armies. The National Guard is the army of that state. They have their own law enforcement, completely separate. Their law enforcement only deals with state government. It doesn't deal with the federal government. Well, I mean, they do, but that's more like, it's like when the law enforcement people from Britain help the law enforcement people from France. I mean, heck, some of the bigger ones that have lots of money even have their own Air Force, the Air National Guard. I mean, all of the A-10 Warthogs are part of the Air National Guard. They're not in the normal, regular Air Force. And a few of them even have their own navies. Although, generally you're not going to find anything big, just little Coast Guard type things. Now, while somebody in New Hampshire has far more in common with somebody in Arkansas than either of them will with somebody from Britain, the person from Arkansas and the person from New Hampshire have their own identities. Their communities are different. They have different community values, and their communities want different things. And if you were to get rid of the Electoral College, much of the power that those small states use to counterbalance larger states like California, which by itself has more population than 20 states. California by its lonesome has more population than 20 different states combined. Now it's the lowest 20, but still more than the lowest 20. Probably even 21 or 22. California has more population than almost half the states in the US combined. Almost. And in a Democratic presidential election, there would be no balance that those small states have against those larger states. It just wouldn't be there. And I'm kind of winding down from my rant. I'm not as an angry ranter like some people are, but occasionally I am, but not very often. So I hope you watch this video and you come to respect the Electoral College and you understand why it exists and why it's a necessary part of America's election process. It's not outdated. It's not unnecessary. It's part of the balance that allows small states to have a say, just like large states, in electing the most powerful person in the United States of America. And that's also, at least at this point in time, people would say it's the most powerful person in the world. Well, hope you learned something. And I hope you guys have a great life. And don't forget to vote come Tuesday. Of course, if you listen to this after Tuesday, I guess you can't vote, but I hope you did.